morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always, told out of Voice of Radio, and today I am back with gigantic news, ladies and gentlemen. Not only are we having a rotation this year, not only do we know what it is, but it is happening on the 15th of August. And for those of you paying attention, that is a day before the World Championship starts, which incidentally is not a coincidence. They are rotating to shape things up for the World Championships, just like they did a few years ago when we went Heart Gold, Soul Silver on. And you'll see as we go through this video, there are big changes coming. This has got to be a very deliberate thing to try and make Worlds more fun. Although a quick apology from me, the season starts on July the 1st. The rotation is happening on August the 15th, so I think once or twice for the rest of the video I do mention July the 1st. That is not the date of rotation. August 15th is when the rotation happens. July the 1st is the date of the season starting. But make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, this is huge. Huge, lovely shout out to all the people that have been sending me messages about this. The lovely Stephen Kent, Arctic Blast 324, Denman 2991, OXXO Louise, all the people have been bombarded with messages from all you lovely people. I always appreciate you giving me a heads up, because I've usually seen the news, but with you lovely people out there, it means I cannot miss it for long. So the rotation has been announced. It is coming into effect on July the 1st. That's before Worlds. That is huge. And it is Ultra PRISM-ON. Now, there's a video I've recorded which I've not been able to upload yet, but in that video, I called Ultra PRISM-ON. There were only two options. The only options we had were Crimson Invasion on, which was essentially the start of the Ultra Beast era, or Ultra PRISM-ON, which was the start of the Prism Star era. I always thought Ultra Prism made more sense, especially given Pokemon have made no secret of the fact that they really do want to rotate 4 sets, and I've said it before, and I will happily say it again and again and again. Sets like Shining Legends are not real sets. Don't get me wrong, they're real Pokemon sets, but they don't count as our one set every 3 months. They are extra sets that are thrown in. They are not regular sets, so they don't count in our rotating 4 sets. So the rotation has been announced, and you can see from the graphic on the screen, we retain Ultra Prism, Forbidden Light, Celestial Storm, Dragon Majesty, Lost Thunder, Team Up, and Detective Pikachu. Having said that, ladies and gentlemen, by the time the rotation comes into effect, Unbroken Bonds will be legal. So really that needs to go on this graphic as well. Unbroken Bonds is going to be one of the sets when the rotation hits that is legal. So it does deserve to be on that graphic. So which sets have we lost then? Well, we have lost the Sun and Moon base set, Boo Hiss, etc. We have lost Guardians Rising. That was one of the best sets we have ever had, and now it's gone. We have lost Burning Shadows. We have lost Shining Legends, which was not a proper set. And we have lost the previously mentioned Crimson Invasion. Now, it also bears pointing out that we have lost some promos as well. Mostly the promos we've lost have just stopped cards like Zoroark being reprinted and staying legal. We are keeping all of the promos Sun and Moon 94 onwards. And they have introduced a new rule, whereas starting next season, cards from the McDonald's collections will be legal in the standard format if they're functionally identical to a card that is currently legal in the standard format. Basically, what they're doing here is very simply getting rid of the Energy Evolution Eevee. This was reprinted in the McDonald's collection this year. Had they done what they've done every other year, it would have been kept in the format by the McDonald's promos, and they're making sure that that's not happening. So they are the sets that we're losing. Let's look at the big headlines from this rotation. We are losing Tapu Lele. Tapu Lele is the card. It's been the card for a long time. Lets you search your deck for a supporter card and put it in your hand. It's going, ladies and gentlemen. That's pretty huge. We are still going to have Dedenne, which is functionally similar, lets you discard your hand and draw 6 cards. It's not exactly the same, but it's a GX to use in the early game to help you set up. It's not a million miles away, although it's got 10 less HP and a bad weakness, so, you know, it's not ideal. We are losing Zoroark. Zoroark has been at the center of the format ever since it came out in Shining Legends. It's never really been far from, and I would say top tables, but really the victory podium. I need to do a little bit of a rundown about the history of Zoroark and all of its success, but suffice to say, it has been the best card since it came out, and the only thing that was ever going to stop it was a rotation. And there is a rotation, and that's stopping it. But we're also losing double colorless energy. Now, I don't know how many of you were playing back then, but when double colorless energy was reprinted in Heart Gold Soul Silver, it was a gigantic deal. It instantly made Garchomp C the best attacker in the entire format. It changed the game immeasurably when it was reprinted, and we have had it in the format constantly since it came back. This will be the first time since Heart Gold Soul Silver came out in February 2010, so 9.5 years, the better part of a decade, that we haven't had double colorless energy legal. And seriously, if you weren't playing back then, it's probably hard to really express what an impact that had on the game. Losing it, I imagine, will have just as big an impact. They are the three big cards as far as I'm concerned: Tapu Lele, Zoroark, and double colorless energy. But believe me, ladies and gentlemen, there's plenty more. One of the big stories that a bunch of people have already started cottoning on to: we're losing like all of our Pokemon search. Firstly, we're losing Ultra Ball, and yes, that's another card which we've had in the format for an extremely long time. It is the one card that we've had that lets you search for any Pokemon regardless of what it is. And it's going, and we ain't getting it back, at least not as it looks like before the rotation hits. That's a huge deal. But we're also losing Nest Ball, which was the best way to get our basic Pokemon out, and Timer Ball, which was one of the best ways to get our evolution Pokemon out. And if we have a look at the options that we've got when the rotation hits, they ain't looking great, ladies and gentlemen. Probably literally the best option we're going to have is Pokemon Communication, which does let us search for any Pokemon, but we've got to swap a Pokemon in our hand for a Pokemon in our deck. If you don't have a Pokemon in your hand, you can't use Pokemon Communication. That can be an extremely bad thing. Plus, there's a whole bunch of decks that want to discard energy. Naganadel comes to mind. Although, speaking of Naganadel, we are still going to have Mysterious Treasure. If you're playing a Psychic Dragon deck, or Psychic or Dragon, it doesn't matter. This was always better than Ultra Ball anyway. The thing is, Mysterious Treasure only gets your Psychic and your Dragon. We're losing Ultra Ball. That's huge. And in terms of the other options, we've basically got Beast Ball, but that's only for Ultra Beasts. We've got Friend Ball, which isn't exactly particularly amazing. Lure Ball, which is really quite flippy, and it gets it out the discard pile. And Netball, which is great if you want basic grass Pokemon, and not great if you want basically anything else. The state of searching Pokemon out is changing massively. You know what else is changing? Gusting. We're losing Guzma. Guzma has been our Gusting effect of choice. And the thing was that Guzma came in right as Lysander rotated out, so again, we're just not really losing very much. Or at least we weren't then. We are now. Because here's the thing, not only are we losing Guzma, and that in and of itself is huge, but we're also losing Counter Catcher, and for the first time since Emerging Powers came out, we're losing Pokemon Catcher. And alright, Pokemon Catcher has a coin flip. When it originally came out, it didn't. It was beyond broken. But to be perfectly clear, ladies and gentlemen, this is a big deal. What are we going to have? Custom Catcher? Play two at once? You've got a Gusting effect. That's fine if you're playing Alolan Ninetales and you don't need to search for any other trainers, but otherwise, it's not a great substitute at all. So they are the really big stories coming out of rotation. Gusting, Pokemon Search, Double Colorless Energy, Zoroark, Tapu Lele. They are the absolutely huge ones. But we do need to run through the other big trainers and big Pokemon that we're losing. As I've done every year for several years, I will bring you a series of videos very shortly where I show you every set and what we're losing, from the great cards down to the occasionally played. I'll also show you a video where I go through what decks we're losing outright and what decks get significantly weaker. Honestly, to explain this in its full glory is going to take like an hour and a half. And you will get those videos over the next few days. What I'm looking at doing today is just going through the big stories. So if there's a card which I don't mention here that you think is a big deal, please chuck it down in the comment section so everybody else can go and have a gander at it. I'm just going through the ones which I believe are really genuinely big stories. Choice Band. I told you Guardians Rising was a great set. Choice Band does 30 more to EXs and GXs. It's so good that when it was revealed in Japan, a bunch of people mistranslated it or just forgot that it was attached to any Pokemon. They thought it was like the old silver bangle, and it only worked on a non-EX, non-GX. No, it didn't. It's been a 3 or 4 of in essentially every deck since it came out. It's ridiculous. Similarly, we're losing Rescue Stretcher. We're not going to be able to get our Pokemon back as easily. Sure, we still got Brock's Grit, but that's not the same. Rescue Stretcher has been a 1 or 2 of in basically every deck for years. He gone. We're losing Field Blower. Yeah, Field Blower's what we use to get rid of Pokemon tools and stadiums. We're going to be left with Faber. And okay, Faber puts it in the lost zone, yay! But Faber's also your supporter for the turn. You can't just replace all these good item cards with supporters. Because item cards you can play as and when you like. Supporter cards are 1 per turn. It ain't a good solution, ladies and gentlemen. Field Blower is again a 1 or 2 of in every single deck. This is a huge, huge loss. Do you like playing those decks which block and try and avoid your opponent taking prizes? Well, we are losing both Max Potion and Ace Roller. Yes, the 2 best ways to fully heal blocking Pokemon. They're both leaving us, ladies and gentlemen, which means if you want to play one of those decks, which relies on you can't one-hit KO me and then I'm going to heal, yeah, those decks just got an insane amount weaker than they were because, oh yeah, this also came out in Guardians Rising, and it's gone. We're losing Kiawe. Now, to be fair, we are getting Welder. And Welder is arguably better than Kiawe, because although it only gets 2 cards rather than 3, that's energy to attach, and while it is from your hand, not from your deck, it doesn't end your turn and you draw 3 cards when you play it, so there is a strong argument that Kiawe going away isn't that bad because we have got Welder now. We're losing Aqua Pat, which is really bad for water Pokemon. We can use a combination of Naganadel and Quagsire, but firstly, that's a pair of stage 2s rather than 1 item card. And secondly, decks playing that played Aqua Patch as well. And we are losing both Enhanced Hammer and Crushing Hammer. And actually, while we're here, we're also losing Kartana GX, which had a similar ability. Now, to be fair, we are getting a new Mewtwo, which can get rid of a special energy, but only from your opponent's active, whereas Kartana was from any of them. But yeah, energy denial, that's also just gotten a huge, huge amount worse. In terms of the other big Pokemon that we're losing Lycanroc GX. Now, to be fair, its 2 biggest partners were Zoroark and Buzzwole, and we're losing both of those. But make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen, it's still a big loss. This was a Gusting effect. Bearing in mind we're losing Guzma, we're losing Counter Catcher, we're losing Pokemon Catcher, we're losing apparently Lycanroc as well. Probably should have mentioned that when I mentioned Guzma. Point is, Gusting just got a whole heap more difficult. It's not an ideal situation. Also, spare a thought for Dancy Prism Star, who survives the rotation, but he's lost his 2 best boys. We're losing Gardevoir, that thing that won the World Championships pretty much as soon as it was released, and has basically been good ever since. Yeah, that's gone in its entirety now. Sad face. And actually, while we're talking about fairy Pokemon, we're losing Sylveon GX. To be fair, it wasn't going to be anywhere near as good when we lost the Energy Evolution Eevee, but make no mistake about it, Sylveon's been basically a powerhouse deck since it came out. It was one of the big disruption decks. And we're losing it. And while we're talking disruption, a shout out to Hooper from Shining Legends here, which is also getting rotated. If you like your disruption / blocking decks, you lost a bunch of options today, ladies and gentlemen. And by today, I mean July the 1st, which is like 2.5 months in the future. But you know what I mean. We're losing Oranguru. We're actually only losing the one that draws cards, but that's the one that's going to be best. Because the other one, the one that we're keeping, was by far the best in Zoroark decks, which are gone. Oranguru let you draw until you got 3 cards in hand. And it's not like we don't have options. We got Pidgeotto from Team Up, and we've got Zeb Striker from Lost Thunder. But both of those are stage 1s, not basics. So we are going to be missing Oranguru. We're also losing Alola Muck. Alola Muck turns off abilities of basic Pokemon. It's a really, really good card that has started to see play lately in a whole bunch of decks. For a long time I was arguing and even making videos making the argument that it should be played more. Well, it started to be played about as much as I thought it should be. And now it's going, ladies and gentlemen. Now it's going. We are also losing Marshadow. Now, Marshadow's got that turn 1 let loose, whereby both players get a new hand of 4 cards. This has been one that people have been arguing for the last few weeks is too good and too annoying and needs to go. Well, good news, ladies and gentlemen. If you're one of those people that was arguing Marshadow needs to go, it's going. And then we're also losing Vikavolt. It's not quite the powerhouse it used to be, but then again, it was amazing with Tapu Bulu for a long time, and recently it's been really good with Rayquaza. I am genuinely a little bit upset that it's going away. Though in Unbroken Bond, we are getting the Charger Bugs that you can attach as a double lightning energy, and it's not your attachment for the turn, so, you know, Vikavolt will still carry on, although it's not one of the biggest losses, but worth pointing out that Vikavolt GX will also be rotating, which is a little bit sad. And finally, just a personal heartbreak from me, ladies and gentlemen. We're losing Mamoswine. It's our only Mamoswine. I know it's not particularly good, but we now won't have a legal Mamoswine in the format. Anyone that knows me or has been watching my videos will know this is a point of sadness for me on a personal level. Make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen, that is not a comprehensive rundown of the rotation. I could not do it in the 20 minutes I've got for this video. Over the next few days, I will be bringing you literally everything you need to know. I'll be going set by set to show you what we're losing and telling you what the alternatives are, whether are good alternatives, and I will be giving you a rundown of the top decks and how they're looking after rotation. I will tell you everything, but I couldn't do it in 20 minutes. What we have done is looked at what sets we're losing, what sets we're keeping, and the big stories after rotation. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, I've got your back. We'll learn everything. So do make sure you're subscribed. So if you're not already, hopefully you are, but if you're not, subscribe so that you can get all of that. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, tell me what you think about this rotation. How do you feel about Ultra PRISM-ON? What is a card you're going to be missing the most? Tell me what you think about having a rotation on July the 1st. This is huge news, and I want a big discussion in the comment section. Seriously, this is the biggest news we've had and probably will have for months. Let's get a discussion going. Go nuts, but be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter @TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you'd like to support the channel, if you want some bonus podcasts every week, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio. That's where you can do that. And please make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where we talk about games that don't have Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.